Federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, or exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, or video discs under certain circumstances without authorization of the copyright holder. This is called fair use and is allowed for purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, and parody, which doesn't infringe of copyright under 17 U.S.C. 107.
I don't agree. I don't agree. I don't agree that we should encourage. And first of all, how does it benefit Black America? Y'all talking about restoring, right? Black America, restoring our lives, restoring our economy, restoring our families. How does it even benefit Black America to encourage our men to become women? Because first of all, if anybody understands the strategies of war, if it's trying to take out a colony of people, the first thing they do is remove the men. So as a woman, first of all, I need my man. I need my Black man. You know, I need you to be a man. I need you to lead. I don't need you to be competition. I don't need you to feel like you a woman or feel like you are me, because I don't have to give my crown away.
So you do realize that Angela Stanton is the truth. Her logic is flawless. I thought I had to do a commentary on this rather embarrassing interview that Angela Stanton did on The Breakfast Club. First and foremost, this woman is the truth, the whole truth. And all three of those retards together were no match for her. She slaughtered them with facts over and over and over. It was carnage. It was actually carnage. There were multiple body bags. There were body bags for the body bags. It was everything. I live for this woman. Vote for her. Our new president. I love this woman. Can we clone her? Can we make more of her? Because I would like to clone her. So actually, before I say anything, I really want to paint a picture for you. Angela is running against John Lewis, who is kind of establishment Democrat. She's running for Congress. I'm rooting for her. Over John Lewis, I have to say. So we have two Black individuals running for the same office. But her mindset is so on point that how could people not vote for her? It would seem insane. This woman is the most solid Black rep I've seen in decades. Anyway, you have to see it for yourself. So let's just break it down bit by bit.
Angela, tell them a little bit about yourself. You're running for Congress in Georgia right now, right?
Mm-hmm. I'm running for Congress in Georgia in the 5th District against John Lewis. I am from Atlanta, been there most of my life. Most of you may know my story from a while back. I spent some time in prison for a nonviolent charge. Ended up giving birth to my daughter, chained to a bed, came home, went through a lot of trials and tribulations to get to where I am today. Ended up using my story to not only pass the First Step Act, but also make it illegal for women to be chained during childbirth. I ended up getting a full pardon from the president, and now I'm running for Congress to use my story, to use my experiences, and bring hope to our people.
Her story is compelling. She went to prison on a charge that had nothing to do with violence. She gave birth to her daughter while incarcerated. She talks about being chained to a bed while she was giving birth. She is a women's rights advocate in the most profound of ways. She helped pass an act that part of that was women not being chained to the bed as they gave birth, which is just insane that you would chain a woman up in a position where she can barely stand. I love this woman. Like, I want little Black girls to look up to women like her as examples of what your life can be, no matter what you've been through, no matter what has happened to you. that you can come over that and become a solid person with a head on your shoulders that petitions for the treatment, the proper treatment of people like you. But I think what people are most familiar with is the fact that President Trump pardoned her. And now she's running for Congress. I'm sorry, I just love this woman. I almost could find no flaws with her through this whole interview.
You got a pardon from President Trump?
Full pardon from President Trump.
I saw
Now, do you think that you would be a Trump? Do you think you would be a Trump supporter if he hadn't pardoned you?
I've supported Trump before I got a pardon.
And why do you support Trump? What values do you see in Trump that make you a supporter?
I support his policies. He's the first president that's for pro-life. There are, nearly 60 million Black babies that have been aborted since Roe v. Wade passed.
So they don't even want to talk about her history. They don't want to talk about the amazing things that she did. The first thing they bring up in the interview is, why is she pro-Trump? Well, first and foremost, he pardoned her, but she says she was pro-Trump before that. He tried to get us to come to the table with him, which is why I can't be anti-Trump. No matter what comes out of his mouth, he puts his money where his mouth is. We just haven't fully taken advantage of his desire to pander to the Black vote.
And if we talk about Black Lives Matter, then we know that Black Lives Matter even in the womb. He also signed the most historic criminal justice reform that I had a part of, and we freed over 7,000 people from prison. 91% of them were Black. He's also permanently funded HBCUs. He also lifted the federal ban that was against faith-based HBCUs.
Actually, I forgot about that. Faith-based HBCUs. I think this is significant for people of all faiths, not just Christians. It's facts.
Before COVID hit, we had the lowest Black unemployment. The fact that the man was willing to listen to someone like me and allow me to influence him to not only pass the First Step Act, but make it illegal for women to give birth in chains, I realized that this man is not the man that they're proclaiming him to be.
So what made you, get away from the Democratic Party?
Well, my own story, when I came home from prison, I was a convicted felon. I was a single mother. I had 4 children waiting for me. They gave me a $25 check and a bus ticket and said, here, go start your life over. Well, we had absolutely nowhere to go. I couldn't get the welfare that I'd been able to get before. I couldn't get any housing assistance. So I had to figure out how I was going to make it. I had a God-given gift, which was writing. So I wrote my life story. From there, I went on to being a national best-selling author and then starting my own publishing company. Not only that, the part about being a single mother, remembering when I was getting those benefits and how Section 8 said, as a single mother, we'll help you and your children, but the father can't live in the home. Or when I was receiving welfare, they'll say, okay, you'll get this certain amount of money at the beginning every month, but you can only make a certain amount.
I love her. I love how she's keeping it all the way real and talking about the trappings of the social systems. It's not so much that you cannot get Section 8 with the father in the home. It is that if you have a 2-parent household, everybody's income has to be counted in that 2-parent household. So that could ultimately mean, right, that you get pushed over the threshold where the father can't be in the home or where you're pushed to the bottom of the list. That's a real thing that happens. There are caps on how much you can make on welfare. So a lot of times, if you're going to be separated for your children for 45 hours a week, it's not worth it when you're barely making any more money than you would get on welfare, especially with these minimum wage jobs, to, go out and lose your food stamp benefits and lose your welfare benefits. That's real conversation for people that struggle. I love that she comes from that struggle. Those people, right, those of us who haven't been in these positions in prison and figuring out how to put your life together after that, we can't fully appreciate what she's saying. She and her and the experience she has had there are a lot of people in our community that can relate to it. A lot. And I think at the end of the day, is that not what we want? A representative that understands the average plight of the average Black person, not somebody that is politically detached from reality.
It wasn't until I was denied government benefits and nobody wanted to help me that I discovered my greatness. And so this road to entrepreneurship is how I eventually became free. And I know if we really want to be free as a people, we got to reduce poverty. Because once we reduce poverty, we reduce crime. We need more entrepreneurs. And if I can do it, anybody can do it.
You can do that as part of any party, though, or being an independent. You don't have to be a part of a party to do that, though, right?
Well, I mean, for me personally, I'm a conservative because I don't believe in handouts. I believe in hand-ups. When we talk about the Democratic Party, it's a large focus on welfare, right? People only need welfare for a certain amount of time. We don't need to become lifelong welfare recipients.
I guess I can push back on that. It's no longer possible to be a lifelong welfare recipient. Welfare reform, that ship has sailed. I think people who get welfare can get like 5 years total worth of welfare for themselves. So the lifelong welfare recipient talking point is a dead thing. It's a moot point. We don't do that life anymore. That was taken care of years ago.
I'm also not a Democrat because of abortion. This is my thing. Roe v. Wade was passed off of a lie. As of right now, where we are, we're always crying about being an oppressed minority, but we are always going to be an oppressed minority if we continue to abort our offspring. Abortion is the biggest genocide against Black America. They strategically place their abortion clinics in our neighborhoods, and just about every time you hear a Democratic candidate go on stage, the first thing they say is Black women need access to abortion.
I'm sorry. Abortion is genocide. More Black babies are aborted per capita than anybody. We actually murder more of our children than we give birth to. That's insane.
So if we really want to restore the value to our own lives, if we really want to say,
right, though, a woman's right for abortion.
I just want to.
If a girl, like let's say a 16-year-old girl was raped, or somebody was raped and they're pregnant, and they don't want to have that child, they don't want to have that experience. You don't feel like it's a woman's right to have an abortion?
I hate these talking points. You guys, I'm literally watching this with you. I cannot stand when people are like, what about the lady that gets raped? What about the 16-year-old that gets raped? I'm sure she'll touch on it because she's flawless. But most women just get abortions because they don't want their baby. They don't like the child's father. Let's not act like all these millions of abortions are just rape victims. I hate that narrative. The exceptions do not make the rule. They prove the rule. And the rule is women are out here having sex, getting pregnant, not wanting the baby, so they kill them.
So they talk about women's rights and women's choice. We need to first figure out why the government gave us a choice to kill our children and get away with it. Because as a man, you make the child. If you wanted to kill the baby, you would go to jail. You don't have a right to decide whether or not your child lives. Neither should a woman. Even in the instance of rape, let's just talk about it because I've been raped before. I have a 27-year-old daughter that's a lawyer, still deciding to choose life because at the end of the day, that child is still partly mine. Now, if you can't kill the person who raped you, why are we killing the child?
I'm saying, because if I had to choose between killing the man that raped me and killing an innocent unborn child, I want that man dead. So how is the life of a rapist more valuable than the life of an innocent baby? Good question.
In addition to that, rape is only 1% of abortions. So the argument that's on the floor right now about abortion is the Democrats wanting to fund it. It's not necessarily taking away a woman's right, which I don't believe any woman should want a right. Because here's the thing, you taking away someone else's right to live.
Well, I'm definitely pro-choice, and I highly disagree.
I'm pro-choice, and one of the reasons I'll say that is because one of the reasons I'll say that is because I think history has proven that when abortion was illegal, women were still having abortions and they were doing them in very unsafe ways and dying from them. So that will still continue to go on. And then the only people who had access were people who could pay for private physicians so that they were able to travel, go get that done,
so,
pay a
Angela,
large sum of
let me
money. So
tell
that
you
actually endangered our people who were living in
Let me
poverty.
tell
Okay, so I hate this argument about, well, if you don't let women kill their babies, they're just gonna do it anyway. First of all, women are not such barbarians. Like, we're not such monsters that we're just desperate to murder our own children. This idea that if you don't allow us to murder our children with impunity, we'll do any and everything to kill our babies is crazy. But I'm gonna say something that a lot of people won't say, and I'm certain she won't say it. If you are so desperate to murder your own child that you are willing to do any and everything to do so, whatever happens to you, you have that coming. Because it is a nasty thing to so passionately want to kill your own baby. Be as passionate about shutting your damn legs. How about that? How about we get passionate about chastity? How about we get passionate about not laying down with people we don't want to get pregnant by? How about we get passionate about being mature enough to understand that sex feels good, but it's a procreative act? Why don't we get passionate about that? If you're so passionate that you are willing to just kill your own baby, go to any extreme, any backwoods abortion clinic, risk any, amount of life and limb to kill your own baby, and something happens to you, you don't get my sympathy. I'm not gonna pass laws over your passion to kill somebody. That's not how we do this. Your passion to be a murderer, your passion to not respect your own seed, that's not how we pass laws around here. I mean, apparently it is if you're a Democrat, but that should not be the standard. If you don't let them kill their babies legally, they're just gonna go and do it in some backwoods abortion clinic. For real?
Because they couldn't afford to go to a private doctor.
Let me tell you something. A baby dies every time in an abortion. Every time a woman has an abortion, a baby dies. You can't say Black Lives Matter and don't include the Black lives that are in the womb. Now, when you're talking about health care,
Is it a fetus or a baby?
Angela Yee said, is it a fetus or is it a baby? Why do people say that? Do you know that fetus means unborn offspring? It's literally what it means. It means offspring that is not currently born. Unborn offspring. I've never known a human being to have offspring that wasn't a person. We only call it a fetus because it's unborn. It's still your offspring. That is a fancy word for child. Your child, your baby, your offspring. Angela Yee is not the brightest. So that is why she's having a little, issue. She's gonna bust out the word fetus like she's really saying something. Don't use words you don't understand, Angela Yee, because it makes you look dumb. You're not helping your argument by using the word fetus. You're making the argument that it is a baby when you say fetus. You're making the argument that it's somebody's offspring. Ergo, when you kill your offspring, you're killing your child.
Let's talk about it. Look up the definition of a fetus. A fetus is a human baby.
Oh, she touched on it. See, I haven't watched this yet. So she said it too. That's what I'm saying. Angela Yee is a little bit slow. A little bit. Tiny bit.
Now, when you're talking about healthcare and in the Black community, we need to remember the Negro Project and Title X funds. When you go research the history of Planned Parenthood, the founder, Margaret Sanger, was a racist. The Negro Project was about them implementing birth controls into our population, into our communities, to keep us from populating, to keep us from reproducing. Now, the thing of it is, when you guys say you're pro-choice, you have to think about this, the word and the trick. Why is it pro-life and then pro-choice? Because the opposite of life is death. The choice is death. So what we have to decide now is when we are voting is, are you going to vote for your children, your future children to die or your future children to live? Why not give them
It's still a
access
choice.
to It's a choice. What's the choice though?
Life or death.
Okay, so why would a mother choose death for her child? Everybody that's here, even all of us on this live, we got here because our mamas got pregnant. At the end of the day, it's somebody's life. So how is it that
I don't think
everybody that's advocating for abortion has never been aborted?
I'm sorry, but that was pretty funny. She said, why is it that everybody who's advocating for abortion, a person that's not been aborted? Right? Because you feel a little bit different if your life was the one being taken. But I thought, I've actually never heard anybody say that before, but it is interesting. A bunch of people who were not aborted are advocating for the ability to kill other people. A little bit weird. It's a little bit weird, but okay.
9%. What about the fact that every time you see an advertisement for Planned Parenthood, it's targeting Black women? What about the fact that 46% of our population has been aborted since 1974 when Roe v. Wade was passed? So when we're talking about the Black vote and how we are the minority, why are we not waking up and realizing that we are not only killing our own army, but also aborting our votes? So what I would like to do as a congressman, because I promise you, everybody is voting for our children to die on the Democrat side. I would love to bring balance. I would love to give opportunity to women, because look, you can't tell me that the only way I can survive or be successful is by having an abortion when I'm a woman that came home from prison and raised 4 kids on my own, which are all a blessing. So if we want them to value our lives, then we need to begin to value the lives of our offspring. My one vote on the floor, the only thing it's gonna do is bring balance, because at the end of the day, I wanna save Black life.
I still feel that as history
We're
has shown,
embryo.
women are still going to have abortions, whether or not it's illegal, and it's a very dangerous practice
So
when
that's
that
an
does
excuse
happen,
to
and it
support a
does
racist
end up killing
organization
people.
that has
So
wiped out half of our race?
we would
Is that an excuse to support?
to support what?
Is that an excuse to support a racist organization that has wiped out half of the Black race?
You know, Sheik is not going to get Angela Yee to care about wiping out half of the Black race, because Angela Yee is not Black. Let's talk about that part. She's not going to care about Planned Parenthood wiping out half of all Black people. She's not going to care about Black women killing more babies than they give birth to. She's not going to care about that. I'm sorry. There is a crazy bug crawling up that window. I don't even know what kind of bug that is. It's like wild. Okay, let me try to stay focused.
Planned Parenthood doesn't only provide, Planned Parenthood doesn't only provide abortions for people.
Tell you about
you know they do. You know they do a lot more work than that as well.
So does every other OBGYN. We don't need Planned Parenthood to provide those services. We can go to any health clinic and get those services. Not only that, Planned Parenthood was just offered $60 million from our federal government for those funds. To take care of those other programs. They walked away from it because the stipulation was that they couldn't use those funds to perform abortion. Now, that is no excuse for us to say we are going to support, and it's documented that this is a racist organization.
I'm telling y'all, this woman is everything in life. She's pointing out nothing but facts. Planned Parenthood is so obsessed with killing babies. They refuse to take tens of millions of dollars because they could not allocate those funds to anything but these other services that they're so passionate about providing. You're so passionate about providing these services, but you're not looking for tens of millions of dollars to provide those services. You need to be able to reroute that money for use on abortions in order for you to be down.
Because you believe that doesn't make it that other women have to believe that. You can believe
Well,
that
we
you're
don't-
against
but
abortion, and
why
that's
do we
fine.
have
You
to-
can be against
but why do
abortion, but
we
you
have to-
can't
but why
make
do they
another
have to
woman
pay
do
for
what
it?
she wants to do with her
I
body.
don't think
Why
she's
does
trying
the
to.
Democrat
I don't think she's
Party
trying
have
to.
to pay
I don't
for
think
it?
she's trying to make them.
Why does the Democrat Party have to pay for it? Why do us as pro-lifers, people that believe in life and want your children to live, your future children to live, why do our tax dollars have to pay for those children to be slaughtered? Because not only are they murdered and dismembered in the womb, but then their body parts are sold and some of them are harvested. So what they're voting for on the floor now is funding it. I don't want to support a party that wants to pay for Black life to be exterminated.
She does not want to participate in a party that wants to pay for Black life to be exterminated.
Why do you feel
choose
like they
to
should
have an
pay for it?
abortion.
Why do you feel like people who don't believe in killing babies should have to pay for it with tax dollars? If you want to abort your child, why do I have to pay for it?
I don't feel like, well, first of all, I don't think that what you're paying is just for abortions when you pay for services from a clinic. That's not all that they do. That's a small percentage of it.
Them turning away the 60 million in federal funding for those programs.
That's a small percentage of it.
Them turning away the 60 million in federal funding for those programs.
That's a small percentage of it.
Them turning away the 60 million in federal funding for those programs.
She said, "Did you not hear what I just said?" Yeah, Angela Stanton is not the one, Angela Yee. This is like the tale of two Angelas. One Angela is going to have to stand down. It's going to be the dumber of the two. I think we know who that is.
So what I'm saying is what they're asking for is to fund abortion. What we're saying is we don't want to pay for it. And the same thing with sex reassignment surgery. As a conservative, it's not something that tax dollars should fund.
Because you're anti-LGBTQIA.
I'm not anti-L. Don't say that. Don't say that.
Well, I'll say it. I, Irene Yvette, am anti-LGBTQAI LMNOP QRSTV. I'm anti-gay. I'm anti-trans. I'm anti-freak. I'm anti, because I think some of them call themselves freaks. I'm anti all that mess, okay? I'm anti-trans. These people need therapy, okay? They need to be brought to reality. They need to be kept away from children. She didn't have to say it, but I'll say it. This is why we know I have no future in politics, because I don't have time to sit here and pretend like I'm not anti something that I'm anti. But we all knew that. This is not about me. This is about Angela. So we'll get back to Angela.
I'm just asking.
But you did.
Some of the things I don't agree with. I'm not anti, because when you say anti-LGBTQ, you putting in lesbian, bi, gay, you lumping everything in together.
So what are you anti? What are you against then? Explain. I'm asking. So what are you against, ma'am?
This is what I don't agree with. I don't agree that I should be forced to recognize a man as a woman if he has had a sex change. I don't believe I should be forced to recognize that. I also don't believe that children should be associated with anything LGBTQ. I'm not against anybody grown doing what they want to do, but I am against associating children with that, and here is why. When you break down LGBTQ, what it means and what it stands for, it's all sexual preference. Children shouldn't be identifying with sexual preference. So when you have gay characters in cartoons, in every essence, you are opening up the door and teaching children about sex. This is my opinion. I feel as though laws need to be in place that protect children. That's all where I'm at.
That was wise wording, because children ought not be having sex. So we ought not be sexualizing them with these adult themes. That's valid. Now, I would just say that they are dysfunctional and they recruit young, and we should not be allowing them to do that. But I like the way she put it. You know, she's politically correct. That's a good argument. She's ready to be a politician. This woman is ready to be a politician, because I tell you, I don't have the tact to do what she's doing. They would have triggered me from here to kingdom come, and I would have been called every kind of bigot and all that, and it would have been true, because I am a bit of a bigot. It would have been true, but it probably wouldn't have helped my political career very much.
You know, gender and sexual preference are two different. Gender and sexual preference are two different things. Just because you're associating you are a certain gender doesn't mean that you're having sex and that's a sexual preference.
And so let's talk about that. Even when it comes to children, why are we confusing children with gender identity?
I don't think that children are confused when they say, this is the body that I feel like I have, and this is what I am. I don't think anyone's forcing it on them.
If I say I'm a turtle, does that make me a turtle?
Is that a gender that's an option for you?
Well, by modern day standards, Angela, you could be a turtle. You feel you're a turtle, if you identify as a turtle, if you feel that you've been born in the wrong body and you ought to have the body of a turtle, you might even be able to get a plastic surgeon to fuse some sort of shell-like aperture onto your body so that you can fully embrace your turtle nature. And I'm sure there's some way we can simulate egg laying for you so that you can go out to the beach, lay eggs, fully be immersed in your turtleness, unless you're a male turtle, in which case you don't have to do the egg laying part. So I don't want to pass judgment, because gender identity and gender are not the same. So you might feel like you're a male turtle. You may feel like an asexual turtle. You don't vibe anyway. Get with the times, Angela. Get with the times. But I'm sure Angela Yee will explain this, because Angela Yee speaks psycho. She understands the mentally ill in the world. So let her do the interpreting for us.
I would respect your right to be
Just
a
because
turtle,
I feel like it. So wouldn't you say that? Wouldn't you say
Angela,
that being a woman is more than a feeling?
Angela, I would
Like-
respect your right to be a turtle. If you wanted to be a turtle, I would not tell you that you're not a turtle.
He says she could be a turtle. Charlamagne knows what's up. You can be anything you want to be.
Like
Okay,
Dwayne
but you don't
Wade's
have
daughter.
the right
Like
to make
Dwayne
my
Wade's
children
daughter.
believe that but I don't have the right to use my influence or make laws to make children believe that you can magically turn into a turtle when we know that it's not true. So there's a certain thing called gender dysphoria, and it's very similar to people that have anorexia. So people that have anorexia, in their minds, they believe that they're fat. They really are not. Gender dysphoria is the same thing. We have people that believe that they are in the wrong bodies. They are not. So
She's very right. Gender dysphoria is an actual medical condition. It's a mental condition. It's a mental illness where people believe something about their gender that is not true. And the current treatment that the LGBTQAIWXYZ LMNOP committee has proposed is that rather than give these people therapy to help them get their minds right and figure out what's wrong with them, is that we give them really invasive surgeries that sterilize them and that change their physical appearance to better match their delusion.
here's my thing. Having an operation to make you look like the opposite sex does not make you the opposite sex. I feel as though it's confusing children. Now, I'm not here to take away gay rights.
We know for sure I will never be in politics because I would take away gay rights. No offense, gays. I don't think anybody should hurt you. But you would be rightless around here. You'd have the right to get treatment. Nothing but treatment. Treatment all the time.
I have a son that's a part of the community. I have an aunt that's a part of the community. Plenty of friends. I love them, but I stand on what I believe, and that's only two genders.
So your son is gay. So you can't be. There's no way you
Yes,
can't be
he is.
anti-LGBT.
Yeah, I raised them. I love them to death.
So you're
but see, here's the
anti-trans.
thing, you can't. I'm anti what?
Trans rights.
Y'all love to use that word. I never said that.
Angela is a whole politician out here. She's ready for them. She said, why do you keep using that word? Why do you keep using anti?
Grown people can do what they want to do, but why are we confusing children? Why are we trying to make children believe in something that's not real?
I think that
kids
it's
can get a sex change. No children can get a sex change. So you're mad like Dwayne Wade and,
yes,
how
they
he's,
can.
and how he's raising his
Yes,
son.
they can. You don't know that there are laws allowing children to be given hormone blockers that's actually sterilizing them now and keeping them from producing breast stuff before they've even gone into puberty. Yes, they are. And so there need to be laws against that. So I just took my daughter to the doctor the other day. She was only 15 years old. She just turned 16. And the first thing the doctor asked her was, what gender do you identify with? First of all, ma'am, that's a minor. She identified with what she was born. She was a female. She's known she's a female ever since I gave birth to her. So why are we encouraging mental health? Why are we allowing them to confuse our youth, confuse our children? When you grow up and you're an adult, if that's what you want to do, you have every right. I believe people should love who they want to love, absolutely. But when we come to our children and giving them options and now allowing them to make informed decisions, we need to tell them the truth.
I think
Angela,
that
you
it's
was
easy to
raising your
say that
child,
when you have an. Go ahead, Charlamagne. I think it's easy to say that when you haven't experienced it and you don't know what it's like. But as a person who I myself know many trans women, I understand that they felt like, for a majority of them, they felt like that since they were young. I was born and I was assigned this gender at birth as a male, but I feel like I'm a woman.
Angela,
So does she say she thinks that's easy to say when you haven't experienced it and don't know what it's like? But she hasn't experienced it and she doesn't know what it's like. She had to say, I have a gay friend. Well, then if you haven't experienced it, you're in no better of a position, according to her own logic, than Angela, the sensible one is. I guess I'm gonna call them Angela the Dumb and Angela the Sensible, right? Angela the Dumb is in no better position to speak on it than Angela the Sensible is, based on her own logic. Angela Yee doesn't even understand her own logic. How is she going to try to explain it as somebody else's logic? Can we just skip over? I'm going to skip over everything Angela Yee is about to say.
That's the gender that I identify with.
Listening what you're saying.
And I think that it is dangerous for you to tell a child they can't be who they are, because that leads to all kinds of mental trauma later on in life.
So let's do this. So you saying, first of all, let's talk about what you said. You said all of your transgender friends, and I have them too, saying that they felt like they were a woman. Well, being a woman is more than a feeling.
She said being a woman is more than a feeling.
Feeling like a woman doesn't make you a woman. And when you tell me that, I'm telling a child, let's just say my son who was gay, if he told me he felt like he was a female, that I would be doing damage to him by telling him that he's a male. I feel like I would be doing damage to him by telling him that he is a female, which would also force him into dismembering his body,
They do dismember their bodies. I'm going to throw in a little clip of that dismemberment so we can focus in on what we're really talking about here.
The procedure begins by marking and harvesting the...
So I want to stop here. This particular man has already had his testicles taken off. So I want to be clear that normally there are testicles, but he has had his testicles removed because this area is where they're going to make the fake vagina. So he has already cut off his scrotum. He's already sterile. And now they're about to mess with his penis. So let's just take a look at this, because they're women is what they want us to believe. They want to be embraced as women. They want to be considered a version of woman. They want to say that body doesn't matter and genitalia doesn't matter. So we need to be clear on what we are co-signing if we're going to co-sign it. And we need to be clear on what sort of sympathy is a healthy sympathy for these people. I believe we should have sympathy for them too. But after you see what this man has done to him, you tell me if the sort of sympathy that a lot of people want to have for trans people is appropriate, or if we need to rethink what sympathy looks like.
Scrotal flap, which will later be used to line the neovagina. The borders of the flap include the base of the penile shaft, the lateral demarcations of the scrotum, approximately 2 centimeters medial to the groin creases, and the perineum 4 to 5 centimeters above the anus. The flap is incised using a 10-blade scalpel. Alice clamps are placed on the edges for traction, and the flap is removed from the underlying subcutaneous tissue using sharp dissection and electrosurgery. Once the flap is removed, it is handed off and kept moist with saline-soaked sponges. If testes are present, a bilateral orchiectomy is performed. The testis is grasped with a towel clamp and placed on traction. The spermatic cord is skeletonized, then double clamped and suture ligated at the level of the external inguinal ring, which is easily identified.
Oh, it looked like I guess he did have some testes left, and they're about to cut him off. He's saying I'm repeating what I said, but I'm going to keep repeating it as people come in, New Era King. I can't lie. I'm going to keep saying it because they keep saying the same things, so we have to keep saying the same things too. So I'll repeat it again. They need sympathy, but not the kind of sympathy these liberals want us to believe that they need. They need a different kind of sympathy.
The inguinal ring is then closed with permanent suture to prevent future small bowel herniation. The procedure is performed bilaterally. Excess subcutaneous tissue is then removed and the tissues are skeletonized down to buccal fascia to expose the underlying penile structures. Next, a circumferential incision is made proximal to the glans penis. If adequate penile and scrotal skin is present to line the neovagina, excess skin of the distal penile shaft and prepuce may be left on the glans side of the incision for later construction of the labia minora and formation of the clitoral hood.
So I hope you guys were listening to that. They're going to take the tip of his penis and that skin to create the labia minora, which are the small lips inside of what would be a woman's vagina, right? And the clitoris. So the clitoris on these people is part of their penis, as well as all of the skin that they use to create the vagina. But this isn't the craziest part. The craziest part is what they're going to do with the actual penis itself, the shaft.
Penile tissues are de-epithelialized, leaving a penile tube, which will later be used to create a portion of the neovagina. This is
okay, whoa, he did that real quick. I want you guys to see where he flips his penis inside out. He did it real quick because he flips it inside out and next he's going to shove it up inside of him. Because remember, this is a penile inversion therapy, meaning they're going to invert the penis. He did that really quick. So I just want to make sure you guys did not miss him flipping his penis over.
On the glans side of the incision for later construction of the labia minora and formation of the clitoral hood. The penile tissues are de-epithelialized, leaving a penile tube, which will later be used to create a portion of the neovagina.
Yeah, well, no, what I meant was your views was that of a liberal. So as your views switched to conservative, did that change?
No, actually,
parented?
to be completely honest, my views were always that of conservative, which most Black people are. You understand? But I was always voting Democrat because we just had this monolithic thought process and we just went ahead with it because that's what everyone else was doing. But when it came to traditional family values, when it came to being entrepreneurs, hand up, not hand out, starting your own business, when it came to things like faith, the freedom of religious rights, those things, I had always had that mindset, but was still voting Democrat, voting against my own interests.
Well, let's talk about unemployment because, you know, your president, Donald Trump, is the reason that 40 million people are unemployed right now because of his response to coronavirus.
Well, I would disagree. I would disagree. I would disagree, but let's talk about this.
Are you disagreeing about his response to the coronavirus? What do you disagree about?
Well, let's talk about his response. What about his response did you guys have an issue with?
I mean, the fact that he denied it in February and said that, you know, it was only one case.
Well, in January, he tried to close the borders against China, and they called him a racist and a xenophobe and a bigot and everything else. And then he actually did close the borders to China. Not only that, he mentioned COVID at his State of the Union speech on February 4th, the one that Nancy Pelosi ripped up. And then she went to Chinatown saying that COVID wasn't a big issue. So I think that because this is something that has happened, this is his first time in presidency. I'm not here to defend him. You know, I know a lot of times he say things that are wild. I'm more focused on his policies, but I do think that he handled it as best as he could and his administration, especially if we look at what's happening now. You know, I have to question the validity of COVID when we have all of these Democrat leaders that were telling us it wasn't safe for us to go to church, it wasn't safe for us to open our businesses, but yet we see them all lined up at a funeral with 3,000 people after several people have lost their loved ones and wasn't even able to bury them. So I have to question the validity of it at this point.
And you don't think Donald Trump is a racist?
Why would I think Donald Trump is a racist when I know his history? Before Donald Trump ran for president, no one thought he was a racist.
They sure
you had
did.
some
That's
apprentice.
He didn't allow
I don't know
black
that
people to
that's
stay in his
true.
building.
So
You know,
let's talk
he
about that.
definitely did.
Let's get factual. And again, I want to talk about what I want to do for the District of Georgia. I don't want to spend too much time trying to defend Donald Trump, but that was an issue about him not renting to people that had Section 8. Now, I got a brother who has property and is not going to rent to people on Section 8. I know people in my own community. I know people that wouldn't rent to me when I was on Section 8. So then they talk about the Central Park 5. Why did Donald Trump go out of his way to run these ads? And guess what my response is to that? Guess what my response is to that?
Still to this day, hasn't apologized.
To that? Y'all more mad at Donald Trump than y'all mad at Antron's own daddy for making him confess. First of all, I got an issue with the daddy. Y'all mad at Trump. I want to know why his father made him confess and knew that it was a lie.
The dad was a problem, but we also have to remember that the police were questioning those young men even before parents were present. So there was a lot that went wrong in that situation. I think everybody has culpability in that situation. I'm not willing to pass any bucks. I don't care what ad Trump ran, because Trump wasn't a part of that investigation and had no power to determine what happened over those boys. What happened with those children fell completely on the parents and the law enforcement officials that were there. Trying to attach Trump to something where back then he had no political power, whether he was being a jerk, a jackbutt, or whatever, is irrelevant, because nothing he did influenced what went on in that room. And we know, we ran the confession tapes here on this channel. Law enforcement and the parents that were involved in that. I have a question. Why were your kids out, period? Forget the confession. Why was your child even in a position just to be roaming with a group of other children without parental supervision, without adult supervision? That in of itself is a problem. My kids don't get to roll around like that. Now, everybody's different. Some parents just let their kids leave, just go do whatever, just get out of my hair, I want to be left alone. So a lot of things were wrong there. The parents have responsibility, and the law enforcement that was very crooked and did not treat those young men like they were children, they have culpability too. But Trump wasn't a parent nor a law enforcement officer in that position. He was just some random dude with money running a full-page ad. So no matter how disgusting we find that, it didn't have anything to do with what happened to those boys. That is on their parents. That is on law enforcement. That is on lack of parental supervision. That is on crooked law enforcement. That is on a racial hierarchy that was permeating through the justice system, none of which Trump had involvement in. So it's irrelevant to me.
Second of all, those 5 men, God bless them, and I fight for criminal justice reform. I'm glad they are free. I'm also glad that they have been compensated. But I also know that Donald Trump has freed nearly 7,000 people, 91% of them Black. I also know that Joe Biden has not apologized for his 94 crime bill and will not apologize for it, which has thousands of Black men in prison right now that I am fighting for to be free.
Interestingly enough, Joe Biden did have political power at that time, and he did use it to be a racist. So there you go.
So how are you more upset about Trump, about 5, than you are about Joe Biden, which left the majority of Black America incarcerated?
I would like it to stay on track, though. If we're talking about Trump, instead of comparing and talking about other people, we're talking about just Trump here, if we're going to talk about that.
And Angela Yee's going to come in with a cape for Biden. But like I said, Angela Yee's not Black, so she's not going to have any loyalty to Black causes. Angela Yee's okay with killing Black babies. Angela Yee doesn't want to talk about Biden, even though it affected the Black community more than some full-page ad ran by Trump. Angela Yee doesn't want to talk about the person who actually had political power during that time. She'd rather talk about the random millionaire who just ran an ad in a newspaper. I'm not saying the ad was right. I'm just saying an ad in a newspaper is not the ability to pass legislation or bring down a ruling on anybody. That's what Biden had.
Instead of saying, well, why didn't this
No,
person
we're
do
going to
that?
talk
Or why
about
didn't this
all of
person
it,
do
because
that?
we need to discuss the hypocrisy.
Instead of saying, well, why didn't this
No,
person
we're
do
going to
that?
talk
Or why
about
didn't this
all of
person
it,
do
because
that?
we need to discuss the hypocrisy.
Instead of saying, well, why didn't this
No,
person
we're
do
going to
that?
talk
Or why
about
didn't this
all of
person
it,
do
because
that?
we need to discuss the hypocrisy.
Angela the Wise is a stone cold trip. She's like, we're going to talk about all of it because it's hypocrisy. She is a stone cold trip. She is the one today, okay? This is a bloodbath.
Trump did more for Black America than Obama did in 8 years that he was in office.
What
Let's
has
talk
he
about
done?
policy.
Let's talk about it. What has he done?
I've
What has
already
he done?
said it. I've already given you the rundown. I've already talked about criminal justice reform. I already talked about permanently funding HBCUs, which their funding was snatched away during the Obama era. I also talked about faith-based, a ban on faith-based HBCUs that was lifted. He also designated in particular office in the White House just to deal with HBCUs. HBCUs were coming back every single year for funding. He made it where they were funded permanently and did not have to do that. He has created opportunity zones. He had the lowest Black unemployment. But again, it's not about Trump.
You know,
because if we're
opportunity
going to talk
zones are
about
not only for Black
politics,
people. You know that, right? You know, opportunity zones are
but
not only
listen,
for Black people.
you bring them to
And you know,
distressed
opportunity
areas. We
zone is
need
for
them
people
right
that can
now, especially.
afford to stay in that building and not sell at. Which
So we
people,
don't
that
have,
means that for people that have money.
whose
And
issue
most of
is
the
that?
majority of the people that have money are white
so
people.
whose issue is that?
So if you want to talk opportunity
issue is
zone of
that?
real estate, we can have this conversation all day.
Hold on.
Opportunity zone is not made for Black people.
Don't tell me we don't have enough Black people that have money that can take advantage of these huge tax breaks.
I said the majority of real estate investors are white, and they can hold down not playing stuff for years.
It's an
opportunity zones are not for only Black people.
Black communities. If Black
opportunity
people
zones
do
are
not
not only for Black people.
Hold on. Let me hear what Angela said.
Hold on. This is what I'm saying. Opportunity zones are for Black communities to rebuild our communities, which is exactly what we need now, especially with all of the things that have been burned down in our communities. We have enough Black people in power with money to take advantage of these tax breaks. But what we have is a lot of leaders and people with money that truly do not care.
She called it out. She called it out. She called it out. Opportunity zones are taken advantage of by non-Blacks because the Blacks with money don't want to invest in the Black community. Let's just keep it real. Let's just keep it real. I believe in systemic racism. That's a thing. But something else that is a thing is if we don't care enough about our own community to do the things necessary to build our own community, if we as Black people, and if there are Black people with money or Black people with small amounts of money they can pull together, won't take advantage of an opportunity zone, then when other people come in and they do that, we can't get mad at it. Those three right there have influence. They have a little pocket change. Are they taking advantage of any opportunity zones? Are they just talking about what isn't being done? It's very easy for people who do no work to talk about the work that's not being done. And even I myself, if I was doing no work in the Black community, I would not sit here and talk about what's not being done. The thing is, I talk the talk and I walk the walk when it comes to supporting my community and supporting those individuals who work within my community. Anybody that knows me in my personal life knows that. But 9 times out of 10, like these three, it's easy to sit around and do nothing and then talk about the fact that nothing's getting done. It's easy to say opportunity zones don't benefit the Black community when you, as Black people, are sitting there in a woman's face who is speaking the truth. They have a whole lot to say, but she is right. The onus is on us to take advantage of these opportunity zones. But I'm pretty sure 80% of the Black community has no idea what an opportunity zone is or how to take advantage of it, because we're not watching politics. We're just busy being mad at Trump. So we're not actually watching the policies that come down. We don't understand how they are applicable to us in our neighborhoods because we're caught up in the emotionality and the rhetoric and the racism conversation versus the policies that are being put forth that are meant to better our communities and designed to be taken advantage of by anybody, not just non-Black people. But us hopping on that bandwagon would be too much like rape.
Okay, so funds can be created. We can put together pools. This is an opportunity for us to come together and rebuild our neighborhoods and rebuild our community. So we can't always just sit back and say we're gonna point the finger at somebody else. Right. When we gonna have accountability?
But opportunity zones are only for Black people. Opportunity zones for everybody.
It don't.
It's not just the thing that says only African Americans can buy these properties. Opportunity zones is for everybody. White, Black, Jewish, for low income areas.
You're missing it.
But they're for investments for our community. That's the point.
They're for investments for our community, but it's not just for Black
our communities.
Yeah.
And if they come to our communities, they bring jobs. Just like the Wendy's we saw burn down up the street in Atlanta. You got 15 people that lost their jobs. These are Black people. It brings opportunity to people in our communities.
You know
So
what
don't
they're doing
say
with
that it does not
opportunity
help
zones, man?
us.
Can
No,
I
I'm just
can I
explaining.
switch?
You know what
All
they're doing
right.
with, hold on one second. You know what they're doing with opportunity zones? Kind of like what they did in Jersey City, kind of like what they did in Newark, kind of like what they did in Harlem, kind of what they did in Brooklyn. They come in
Who is
and
that?
take those properties and they
Who is
wait
that?
for the time period. And then when the time period happens, what do they usually do?
So-
They raise the rent, they push us out, and then we don't own these areas. I don't know if you've been to Harlem or if
So
you've been
I
to
have a
Jersey City,
question. I
Hoboken,
have a
or
question
Brooklyn in
for
certain
you.
areas.
I
The
have a
majority of
question
people
for
that you gonna talk over me? I'll let you speak. Can you let me speak, please?
Go ahead. Go
I'm
ahead.
just asking. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm just.
Go ahead.
I let you speak. I'm just saying. Let me finish speaking. So in those areas, what happened? They usually push us out, raise the rent high, and push us away from those areas. A lot of areas in Brooklyn, and Harlem, and Jersey City, and Hoboken, and Detroit, in Chicago downtown, we don't live in those areas. We were from those areas, but we were pushed out. Raised the rent, opportunity zones. People came. They gave them rebates. They gave them all these refunds. After that was over, pushed us out, and we can't afford to go back to those areas. So that's what those zones were. It's not just
your
for
question?
African Americans.
Now can
What's
I
your question,
now can I
Angela? You
speak?
said you had a
Yes,
question.
ma'am.
Again, at the end of the day, we need to have some accountability. You keep saying they. Black people have the same access to do the same exact things. At some point, we're gonna have to stop pointing fingers. Yes, we do. Enough of us got money. We can go in here and take advantage of these tax breaks. If y'all got homeboys, y'all interview all type of celebrities. If we really want to rebuild Black Street, if we really want to restore Black America, then we still have the opportunity right now. Pull our people together. Let's go take advantage of these tax breaks. Let's create our own opportunities and employ our own people. That's the answer.
Call them out, Angela the Wise. Call them out. This is true. This is ridiculous. These people are hobnobbing and rubbing elbows with people with millions of dollars all the time, with money all the time. And I don't see them getting together. I do not see them collectively getting together to build back Black communities. I don't see that happening. I do not see it happening. So they're in no position to talk. That's Angela the Wise for y'all. That's Angela the Wise. We're electing her. Georgia. Electing her. Okay, Congresswoman Angela Stanton.
Because we can't keep sitting back waiting on somebody else to make something happen to us. Because when they open up these loans and they open up these access, we have the same exact access, but we do not take advantage of it.
Well-
So the majority of us, go ahead, Angela.
No, I was going to say, since we're talking about access, do you think it's an issue with the Paycheck Protection Program that they're not saying what companies got the money and that there's not full disclosure on what was happening with those funds?
Does it need to be full disclosure to the full public, or does it need to be full disclosure just to HUD or SBA? Who needs access to it?
I mean, I think there has to be some accountability. I think we should know where is
Well,
that money
I
going,
know,
because there's a lot of
but I can-
businesses that were small businesses that weren't able to access those funds
Well, I can
because
tell
they
you,
were
I know
depleted so
for a
quickly.
fact- I can tell you, I know for a fact, several small Black businesses in the Atlanta area that did get access to those funds. I mean, we even saw a huge article about Carly Red's boyfriend getting $2 million and going and buying a Rolex and paying child support.
Did she just bring up Love and Hip Hop? I'm sorry. Angela the Wise is cold-blooded. Okay, she has multiple assault rifles. She is out here just shooting people down. I would be scared to be in a conversation with her. This woman she is lethal with these arguments. I love her. I love her. I hope that they don't ruin her. But right now, I'm loving everything about her.
I think what it is that we need to make sure that we are educating our communities on how to take advantage of these opportunities. So if they gave out the PPE loans and said, hey guys, fill it out, how many of us actually went through the process of filling out the paperwork? Or if we didn't know how to properly fill out the paperwork, made sure that we engaged our communities for them to get access. So we can't say, oh, they just gave this money to all of these rich or corporations. That's not true.
I didn't say that. I was just asking for if you think there should be disclosure.
60% of
I would agree with
all
that.
small Black, yeah, there should definitely be disclosure, but 60% of all small Black-owned businesses didn't even apply. 60% of all small Black-owned businesses didn't even apply. 60% of all small Black-owned businesses didn't even apply.
So, I mean, Charlemagne the Gay He called it out. He said 60% of Black-owned businesses did not even apply for these funds. There you go. Not taking advantage of policy because we're too focused, and the Democrats have Black people too focused on emotionality, that we're not even paying attention to policy, where we can do things to better our community. We're not even paying attention to the things that are available that can be weaponized to our benefit. We're not doing it. And there's nothing wrong with saying that. If we don't say that, we won't start to change our behavior. That's not to say that racism is not a problem and that systemic issues do not contribute. That's to say that when there are opportunities there, we aren't overwhelmingly taking advantage of them. But then when somebody else takes advantage of them and we don't benefit because they're not doing that for our interest, we want to feel some kind of way. Well, what stopped you, right, from doing the same thing in these particular situations? Now, we're not talking historically where there were closeouts for loans and things like that. We're talking about today with the specific programs that are being discussed within this interview. Because I'm going to tell you something. Had there been some discrimination going on because we were trying to take advantage of them, we would have been in prime position to push policy. For those of you who are anti-revolution and pro-policy pushing. But you don't play the game, you're not going to hop on the board. If you don't play the game, you cannot succeed.
For the PPP, and that's why Robert Smith
So
started
let's
QuickBase.com. Yeah,
You know,
But listen,
access, a lot of
We
us
gotta
can't get
take
access. A
advantage.
lot of us can't get loans. You know, it's
But-
difficult for
but
a
that's
lot
what-
of
but-
African Americans to get
Why?
loans. You know?
But that's
But
why.
why?
But that's why
Tell me
Robert
why.
Smith did QuickBase.com and Diddy did OurFairShare.com to ensure that. But 60% of the people didn't even go for it. But let me ask you a question,
I
Angela.
think
What
we
would be
need
your
to
plan to
educate our
sustain?
communities.
We do. I agree with you that our community
And
definitely needs to
if
be
we
educated.
educate them on, because remember in school, I don't know about you guys, but I was raised in the hood in school. They didn't teach us about credit. You know what I'm saying? They didn't teach us about finances.
entrepreneurship,
Many of us
correct.
they didn't teach us about entrepreneurship. And that's something that I like to see our children taught in school. I mean, it's like we just jump out there and then we don't take advantage of the stuff because we don't have the education. It's not because we can't get it. We're not educated on how to get it. We're not educated on how to establish credit. We're not educated on how to get loans.
Angela the Wise brings up yet another good point. A lot of this is lack of education on financial literacy. And of course, you'll have Black people say, well, they didn't teach us that in school and da-da-da-da. But here's the thing. If you know the system doesn't work for our community, we should be teaching financial literacy to our own people. The people who know should be teaching the people who don't know. I know Brother Q has a whole thing he does with financial literacy and helping people get their credit straight. Financial literacy is part of his blueprint for the Black community. But lacking and barring financial literacy, you don't know how or when to take advantage of these programs. It's easy to call foul, but if you're not actually playing the game, what are you really calling foul on? It's not like we're trying to take advantage of these things en masse. And we do need to start doing that. I feel like people feel like if you tell them they should take action and that some of the weight of the responsibility is on them, then they feel some kind of way. They feel like you're denying, racism. You're denying no, that's not the case. I'm not going to deny systemic racism. It clearly exists. But I'm also not going to deny that we don't do everything that we can do collectively to build up the community. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like we take advantage of all the programs and they're just shutting us out of everything. I'm asking right now of the people who are watching, how many of you have taken advantage or were even aware of any number of the programs that they are discussing right now? How many of you are truly aware of how they work? How many of you went to the government sites and looked up on them? Went and see if you qualified? Let's keep it honest. How many of us have actually done that? Almost none.
Okay,
Angela,
can I ask you another question? Oh, go ahead.
What would be your plan, Angela, to sustain people who are still not working
Wow.
because of your president when
well-
the unemployment payments run out in July?
Unemployment definitely runs out in July. African American unemployment right now, I want to say, is at 16.8%. Nationwide unemployment is at 13%. I want to focus mainly on disaster recovery management, especially after what we saw with COVID, creating job creation, job growth. I think that would be an immediate fix and impact. And not only that, but teaching a lot of people in our inner city and disadvantaged communities about entrepreneurship. You know, people need to know where their next check is coming from. And like I told you before, if we can reduce poverty, we can reduce crime. I know that's why I committed a crime 15 years ago. I was a single mother. I wanted to take a chance on giving my children a better life. And I made a decision and thought I could get away with it.
She's keeping it real. People aren't out here being criminals just because they have a love of criminality. Many people are criminals out of necessity. Many people commit crime out of necessity. We don't teach our young people. So I have a vlog channel. I don't know if you guys know this, but I have a vlog channel where I kind of feature snippets of like me and my family and our day-to-day life. And a young woman commented on my latest video, and she was like, you know, because I was talking about like, you know, these books, and Mr. has a very close friend who writes children's books for Black children, specifically Black boys. And in the book, you know, the little Black boy is, it's called Little Tay, by the way, get the book series. He's in the chess club, he's doing go-karts, he has a mommy, he has a daddy, he's going to the zoo, he's doing all of these things, he's just living his best life. And I was saying on my vlog, like, y'all have to get these books, you know, at every book starts, Little Tay, he is smart, and he has a mom, and he has a dad, and he's just living his best life, and there's no struggle. It's just him living his best life. And you know what she said? She said, you know, that essentially I seemed really financially secure, and that she would love for me to talk about my family, how I became financially secure, you know, that many of our people don't have disposable income. Many of our people are not financially secure. I mean, she just really broke it down. And I thought in this moment that, because I'm watching this with you, I thought in this moment, she is right. Like, at the end of the day, we have to not only be examples of Black people not engaging in a struggle, but we also have to ensure that we are teaching each other how to not be in a struggle, that we are teaching and giving our young people the tools that they need so that they don't have to commit crimes or do things that are dangerous to their person in order to survive and to have the things that they want and that they need. And want is a big part of that, right? Because we can have the things that we need, but for example, I'm sitting in this chair and all I can't touch it. All this, right? All this is not a need. I don't need ornate furniture. I don't need, right, the jewelry in my ear. I don't need that stuff. Those are wants, right? But our wants and our needs sometimes overlap. I don't just want a chair, I want a beautiful chair. And if nobody teaches me how to achieve that, nobody teaches me financial literacy, nobody shows me what programs I could take advantage of, nobody shows me how to be entrepreneurial, how to have financial or independence, you know, if nobody does that for me, then I have to do what I see and what many of our children see around them, right? My example was a bunch of people who own their own businesses, a bunch of people who are educated, you know, lawyers, you know, entrepreneurs. That was my personal example, right? Other people's examples might be the cousin that sells drugs, that has everything that he needs. Might be the individual that is committing crimes on a hustle. Might be the person that boosts. You know what I mean? Our little ones are going to learn what we show them is necessary to survive without passing on the knowledge, without teaching them, raising them up in the way we want them to go. Not to get all biblical on you, but that's why the Bible says, you know, that we should raise our children up in the way that they should go, and when they're old, they won't depart from it. If we raise our children up with this knowledge of financial literacy and entrepreneurship and education and how to make the system work for them the way that other groups of people make the system work for them, to be collaborators with other Black people to build, if we teach them that, they'll do that, and then they don't get caught in the trappings that are so common for our community because they just are looking for what they need and what they would want.
Just as we see with a lot of people returning home and coming home from prison, these people that have been serving 20, 30 years, if they come home and they don't have access to gainful employment, they're going to go back to doing what they usually do.
As business owners, we need to support Black people that are coming out of prison. I told you guys, I worked in commercial real estate for a long time. Never forget when one of my clients needed to bring one of his buildings up to OSHA standards. And there were illegals working there. I've talked about this before. One illegal woman doing a whole building, and she needed to be replaced. You know who I brought in? I looked at my uncle, right, who had a cleaning firm. Another family member literally opened up a post-construction and janitorial firm just to bid on that contract. And then every single person that we hired, every single person that worked in that building was Black and an ex-convict. Every single one. And we had the power then to be the bridge who would speak to their, parole officers and things like that. They didn't have to worry about anybody white over their shoulders. We were over their shoulders. They didn't have to worry about if they had a job. You had a job with us. And that's what we did. So she's right. But see, that is something that we do as a community. I see that, one of my clients needs some work done. 2 out of 3 bids that came in were Black bids. I just threw in the third person just to be throwing something in. You know what I mean? 2 out of the 3 bids that came in. And all of the people that were employed were Black people. So that's how my family moves, right? That's how we move. But collectively, that's how we need to move as a people. We as a community are responsible for each other. And it's not always about what the next person is doing. We have responsibility in this. It's not about the white man all the time. The white man can't stop you from supporting your brother or sister. The white man can't stop you from doing any number of things. The thing is, we don't do those things, not in mass. Okay, for every Q-Butter or every Mr. out there, for every Irene out there, there are 10,000 Black people who aren't doing it. But we all can't burn ourselves as candles on both ends for the whole community. We need 1 million Misters out there. We need 1 million Q-Butters out there. We need 1 million people who are, when they get into a position to put another Black person on, are like, hey, this is open. Come in here, get this. We need 1 million Black people who will be entrepreneurs and dedicate themselves to allocating some of those jobs to ex-convicts, so that they don't have to worry, like she was saying, about what they're going to do when they come out of jail. And I love that part of her story. I love that part of her story is, I had these troubles when I came out of jail. If she doesn't understand the struggle, nobody understands the struggle. These are the kind of reps that we need. These representatives that understand what is wrong, like chaining a woman to her bed when she's giving birth, and understand what is needed, like accountability in the Black community. And us working together while they're all trying to call her out, she called them out. Y'all aren't even working with the rich people to take advantage of these programs on behalf of Black people. So how dare you criticize anything that I'm doing? Valid point.
If we want to see crime rise, we need to not create jobs, not create entrepreneurship. I think for our communities, we all have a God-given gift. Mine was writing. I learned how to take that and make it into a profitable business.
I want to say though, honestly, though I give her props for writing her book, the reality is nobody would have cared about her book had she not been an individual that was pardoned by Trump. I think we do have to be honest that there is some advantage to her situation, right? She has a platform because she was pardoned by Trump, because he listened to her regarding the First Step Act. Those things made her book valuable. So we have to be honest in that. Part of this, like me, part of my positioning comes from, right, whatever privilege I had growing up. It's not like I literally pulled myself out of the gutter or anything. I didn't grow up in those conditions. So for me to sit here, or for her to sit here and be like, well, I am a writer, I'm a gifted writer, I wrote a book. Your book just didn't take off because your writing is amazing. Your book took off because people recognized who you were, and you could talk about the fact that Trump pardoned you. That was the big selling point of the book, your connection to the president of the United States. So I think in that, she's being a little bit haughty and disingenuous.
We have people that know how to cook. We have people that know how to paint. We have people that know how to work with their hands. We can create our own businesses and begin to build our own wealth. And for me, that's one of the main focal points of my campaign.
You know,
all right, one question I wanted
oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, one question I wanted to ask you is, why do you think so many white supremacist groups support Donald Trump?
I think it's because they were white supremacists when Obama was in office. And I think that because Obama was a black man, they happy to see any white man in office. It could have been Hillary Clinton. They would have supported her. Anybody besides a black face. I don't believe that the president has control over who supports him. I don't. And I think.
Do you think he should denounce them? Do you think he should denounce them?
He has. You want me to pull up the video and show it to you?
Well,
all you gotta do is go on. All you gotta do is type in.
You can't call them fine people.
Google President Trump denounced KKK and white supremacy. There's a whole video of him doing that, and he also designated them a terrorist group. Google that also.
But you can't say fine people on both sides in some place like Charlotte.
So can I get, because we back on Trump again versus my campaign, but let me just say this. I was just on the ground in Minneapolis, right? And when I was on the ground in Minneapolis, I had people with me and we were doing a very peaceful protest. And then there were people that were not doing a peaceful protest, busting people on the head, breaking stuff and all of that. So in my honest opinion, when the president said there are very fine people on both sides, he was talking about the people that were peacefully protesting. If you go watch the entire clip and not just the snippet that they put out to try to make it seem as if he was saying something racist, you would have a better understanding. What I want us to do is not look at me as a black woman and think that I'm a sellout or I'm not for black people.
I'm gonna say this. I'm not gonna give Trump all that credit, okay? White supremacists support Trump because Trump, he is not a whole racist, but he's a racist. What I mean by he's not a whole racist is Trump will flex with black people if there's a benefit to him, right? If he gets a benefit and flexing with black people, he'll flex with us. But, you know, he's extra white. He's extra white. He definitely doesn't think we're equal to him, but if he finds a useful and intelligent black person, he'll put them on. If he sees that there's a benefit in doing something for the black community, he will do it. But here's the thing. The Democrats are racist too. They're all racist. The only difference between Trump and any white person on the Democratic side is Trump will actually flex with us if we'll vote for him. Okay, Trump will actually be like, I mean, Obama didn't do that. Trump literally was like, just come and tell me what you want. And the Black Caucus would not speak to him. Trump doesn't care. He's willing to pander, grovel, give black people anything they want. Anything to get us in his pocket, he's about that life. Trump doesn't care if you're a man, if you're a woman, if you're black, purple, blue. If you can advance his cause, Trump is on board with that. Now, I'm not saying that makes him a good person. I'm just saying that makes him a person we can use for our collective benefit if we get out of our feelings, okay? Because I've worked with a lot of people and made money with a lot of people, and you guys work for the man right now, 99.9% of you, and that's how you pay your bills. So to act like we don't know how to compromise to get what we want is BS. We compromise to get what we want. If a white person wants my services, I'm not about to turn down their white money. Just like white people can hate your guts, but they will have you clean their floors. White people can hate your guts, but they'll let you shop in their grocery stores. That's really what, I mean, when integration happened, as much as white people didn't like us, note that they weren't trying to come to black stores. They started shutting our stuff down, and they were like, well, give us your money. They had that whole video, how to sell to the Negro. The Negroes got all this money. We could, you know, maybe I'll throw in a clip.
Hello, I'm Bob Trout. I've got a story here that I think is big, really big, because it's bound to have a terrific impact on business. I'm talking about a new market, a big new market, millions upon millions of new prospects with $15 billion to spend. That's right, I said $15 billion. That's a lot of money, isn't it? The surprising thing is that it's a fresh market, still full of opportunities. It grew up so fast, got so big in a hurry, that few of us realize its scope. Now, these days, nobody's likely to pass up chances to sell. And yet right here in our own front yard, there's a neglected market. There's money waiting to be spent. To get the story of this market, to be able to tell you the secret of selling the Negro, we did a lot of digging. We talked to leading businessmen, to customers, and to salesmen. We went to Washington, D.C. We set up cameras and other key points around the nation. And out of this all, there emerged a story, the story of a new market. Yes, this is the market we're talking about, the new Negro family.
You know? So we need to get with the hustle. Collectively, get with the hustle.
At the end of the day, you would, back in the day, they would have called Harriet Tubman a coon for going to work with white people to free the slaves. I'm not going to apologize for the favor that
Harriet
God
wasn't
has given
going to
me
work.
with this administration.
Angela, Harriet wasn't going to work. It's not like she woke up in the morning and said, I'm going to go clock in for this
I don't
slavery
work
today.
with the administration. I advocate on behalf of Black America with the administration. I'm not employed by the administration. Every time I go to the White House, I'm going there with an issue for Black America.
Do you feel like you have to be loyal to Trump because he pardoned you?
I don't feel like I have to be loyal to Trump, but I'll tell you something, I am a loyal person. I do understand loyalty. If Trump has done something that I feel would hurt Black people or would hurt disadvantaged communities, I would be the first one to say something. I would not align myself with someone or something that I believe was intentionally bringing harm to my communities. If we focus on the policy and not the person.
Policies, not people. This is not a popularity contest. Okay, these Democrats have us out here thinking this is a popularity contest, but somebody being popular doesn't mean that they're going to do anything for you. I'm with her. I'm with Angela the Wise. Okay, this is not a popularity contest. We don't have to like anybody. This is not about how much we like a person. This is about what we can do to get what we want to move our community forward.
Because here's my thing. I didn't like my grandmother. My grandmother was mean. Every time I asked for something, I got cussed out. She never said anything with love, but she never did anything to harm me. She always had my best interest. She was not a very nice person. We may not like what Trump do or what Trump says. We may not like what Joe Biden says, but we need to pay attention to what these people are doing. Damn what they are saying. What are you doing? What type of impact is it having on us as a community? Is it benefiting us? Black America, this is what we need. We need to restore our communities, okay? We need to get Black men out of prison, get them back in their homes, have them raising our children. We need to rebuild Black Wall Street. It is time for us now to act and to come together and make these things happen for us instead of depending on a government system to do it. The reason why we still—
He cut her off. He's literally, this man gets on, Charlamagne the Gay gets on my nerves. Does he know when the shit, Angela was about to go off. And then Charlamagne the Gay, too much constructive conversation in one sentence. He's going to interrupt her. One thing you have to disagree with, what is she saying that's wrong? Explain to me. Where did she go wrong?
Angela. No, I have to push back on you because Trump's policies have hurt Black people. I mean, you talk about the economy, you talk about the tax laws that are disproportionately.
No. Be specific.
When you talk about
now.
Well, they were disproportionately left out of Trump's tax cuts. African-American households receive only 5% of the benefits from Trump's tax law, despite making up 13% of U.S. households. When you talk about education, Trump rolled back Obama-era efforts geared toward protecting Black students from discrimination
Trump,
and school punishment.
Hold on.
Come on now.
Did you not see Trump pass school choice? Did you not see the Black girl at the State of the Union that he gave and that he gave a scholarship to? So school choice is what we need, because our children are stuck in public schools while their children get to go to private schools and charter schools and have access to more opportunities.
School choice. I'm telling you, run these vouchers, okay? Take your voucher over to the Zions Institute or your local Black institute or school. Take this money, homeschool your kids. School choice. Absolutely. You couldn't be more like, we need to do that. Do you want your child stuck in a public school? Do you want to be able to put your child in any institution? I'm with her. School choice was a benefit. I don't know what he's talking about.
So what we have to do is be factual in what we're saying, because what's happening is there are a lot of media bias out here. And what we see is we see one thing that one person says and we just go by it, and we're not doing our own factual research.
I got to ask two more questions, because she's running for Congress in Atlanta.
Yes.
And
Thank you.
Yeah, Atlanta has a large LGBTQIA+ population.
Here we go.
Listen, do you think that your harsh criticism of that community will hurt your chances of winning a seat in Congress?
I think that they have I think that they are very vocal. And I think that when it comes to their rights and standing up for what they believe in, I think that they have been given that right. I think that I have every right to say a man is not a woman because it's factual. I think that I have every right to say that we need laws that protect children, right, from becoming too sexually hyper, right, or sexualized. I believe that I have a right to say that. And I believe that the majority of the LGBTQ community also agrees with that, right? They don't have an issue with that. They also agree with that. Why are we hypersexualizing our children before it's time? So I'm not here to take away anybody's
I don't know if they agree with it or not.
And I don't think that identifying as a gender means that you're telling your child to have sex.
Listen, I'm not lying to my children about who they are. That's me. Now, that's my belief. That's no law, right? That's not on the floor. There's nobody voting to say, hey, let's make it a law that parents can't tell their children that they're the opposite sex than what they really are. That's not a law. That's my personal belief, and I believe that I have a right to that. If I want to raise my children into believing that they are who they were born to be, I should have a right, and I shouldn't be criticized for that either.
Right, and then other people should have the right to raise their children as they see fit as well.
And they do. And they do. Mm-hmm. So am I the enemy because I don't agree? Do I have to agree?
If you're causing them to be oppressed in any way, if you're causing them to be marginalized in any way, then yes.
How you causing somebody to be oppressed by telling them the truth? You oppress people by lying to them, which is what the Democrat Party has been doing to us for the last 40 years. You oppress people by lying to them and making them believe in something that's not true and something that's not factual. So let me ask you, DJ Envy, because you have some beautiful children. I follow your page. If one of your sons or your daughter was to come to you and say, if your daughter was to come to you and say, Daddy, I'm a boy. I want to go cut my breast off. As a father, what are you going to say to your daughter?
Well,
and she's 11 years old.
That means she's old enough, and she is 17 to 18, and I'm going to support a decision of what she wants to be. I'm going to try to tell, you want me to answer? I want me to answer. So I'm going to try to of course, tell her that I support her in whatever she wants or whatever she feels. If she is underage, she can't do anything until she gets a lot older. But if she is of age, then she can make the decision on her own. But my job is to make sure. But seriously, if she's 18, if she's 19, and she's 20, and she feels that way, then we're going to have the conversation.
So you and I.
DJ Envy is a liar. He knows it won't go over that smooth. DJ Envy is just making stuff up to be saying stuff because he can't say no because he put all that on it. You know what I mean? So he can't be honest now. You know? He's got to jump back in. You know, because transgenderism 99.9% of the time is one of those things where you don't mind so much saying it's okay, and so one of your kids wants to come and have their wang cut off, then you're not feeling it so much. One of those.
So DJ Envy claims that if his daughter came to him, that he would basically respect that choice. In all seriousness, when we say retarded things like we would respect the choice of our child if they decided to become transgender, I think we really need to bring it home. So after this, I have footage of the male to female so-called surgery where they flip the penis inside out. But I just wanted to take a moment, and it's much harder to find surgical footage of the female to faux male. But as you can see, this particular gay person said that or transgender person said that this part of her arm is now her penis. And as you can see in these next photos, they've taken a huge giant, so first of all, you can see the clitoris is enlarged in that first picture, picture A, because of hormones, the testosterone. In picture B, the bloodiest of all the pictures, you can see where they removed a huge part of the thigh skin, and then they've taken that thigh skin and they've kind of made it a fat tube-like thing, and then they sew that fat tube-like thing onto where a man would have his penis, and they've sewn the vagina shut. As you can see in picture D, underneath the tube, that they've literally sewn her vagina shut. Then they take the additional piece of skin. This skin, as you can see on this person, has been harvested from the arm, and they fashion the whole fake penis. So DJ Envy is saying he loves his daughter enough to allow her to do that, which is just crazy. And then next, let's look at the female to male, or the male to faux female. Because I think, like, when we talk about, we don't care and we support something, we should know what we don't care about and what we're supporting, right? Which is very, very mentally ill people really being taken advantage of by opportunistic surgeons. And it's something that we should not allow. Like, this is even past, just disliking a lifestyle. This is some serious stuff, and I feel like a lot of people speak on issues of the LGBTQAI plus community, and they actually don't know what they're talking about. They have no idea what they're co-signing. They're just doing it because it sounds good for television, but or radio, but they have no clue what these people are actually doing to themselves. They have no clue what these doctors are doing to them. They have no clue how mentally ill they are, that they would go to these extremes. But yeah, let's take a look at what the men do, mutilating their penises. So we've seen what the women do, having their vagina sewn shut, having thigh meat turned into a penis-looking aperture on their body. Now, let's look at what the men do to themselves and how they mutilate their genitalia.
The lateral demarcations of the scrotum, approximately 2 centimeters medial to the groin creases, and the perineum 4 to 5 centimeters above the anus. The flap is incised using a 10-blade scalpel. Alice clamps are placed on the edges for traction, and the flap is removed from the underlying subcutaneous tissue using sharp dissection and electrosurgery. Once the flap is removed, it is handed off and kept moist with saline-soaked sponges. If testes are present, a bilateral orchiectomy is performed. The testis is grasped with a towel clamp and placed on traction. The spermatic cord is skeletonized, then double clamped and suture ligated at the level of the external inguinal ring, which is easily identified.
Oh, it looked like I guess he did have some testes left, and they're about to cut him off. He's saying I'm repeating what I said, but I'm going to keep repeating it as people come in, New Era King. I can't lie. I'm going to keep saying it because they keep saying the same things, so we have to keep saying the same things too. So I'll repeat it again. They need sympathy, but not the kind of sympathy these liberals want us to believe that they need. They need a different kind of sympathy.
The inguinal ring is then closed with permanent suture to prevent future small bowel herniation. The procedure is performed bilaterally. Excess subcutaneous tissue is then removed, and the tissues are skeletonized down to buccal fascia to expose the underlying penile structures. Next, a circumferential incision is made proximal to the glans penis. If adequate penile and scrotal skin is present to line the neovagina, excess skin of the distal penile shaft and prepuce may be left on the gland side of the incision for later construction of the labia minora and formation of the clitoral hood.
So I hope you guys were listening to that. They're going to take the tip of his penis and that skin to create the labia minora, which are the small lips inside of what would be a woman's vagina, right? And the clitoris. So the clitoris on these people is part of their penis, as well as all of the skin that they use to create the vagina. But this isn't the craziest part. The craziest part is what they're going to do with the actual penis itself, the shaft.
Penile tissues are de-epithelialized, leaving a penile tube, which will later be used to create a portion of the neovagina. This is
okay, whoa, he did that real quick. I want you guys to see where he flips his penis inside out. He did it real quick because he flips it inside out, and next he's going to shove it up inside of him. Because remember, this is a penile inversion therapy, meaning they're going to invert the penis. He did that really quick. So I just want to make sure you guys did not miss him flipping his penis over.
On the gland side of the incision for later construction of the labia minora and formation of the clitoral hood. The penile tissues are de-epithelialized, leaving a penile tube, which will later be used to create a portion of the neovagina.
You and I actually believe the same thing. If they're old enough to make those decisions, then fine.
Correct.
But giving children
now, if my
hormone
6-year-old
blockers,
says it,
taking
then that's
children,
something different. But
taking
you know,
children to the doctor, letting them tell you what their gender is before they are of age is wrong. These are the things that we need to pay attention to. Also, I want to ask you and Charlamagne a question. You know, in New York, they've just made it legal where young underage transgenders can change their birth certificate. So I have 3 sons, right? So
underage at what age? What age? When you say underage, you say under 16?
12, 13, 14, 11, whatever they identify with, they're allowed to legally change their birth certificate. So I have 3 sons. So let's say my 19-year-old son in 5 years from now meets someone from New York that was legally able to change their birth certificate. They get married. He's waited 10, 15 years to have a child, finds out 15 years later that he is not married to a biological woman. He is actually married to a biological man. How is that fair to the person that's been deceived?
I think
nobody's saying that you shouldn't disclose your past, but you know, that's fine.
But you know, that's law. That's what's in the Equality Act. That's what they're allowed to do. They're allowed to legally change their birth certificate. So I just don't agree with the deception.
I would wonder. I would wonder if that. I would wonder if that person would care after all of that time, because you already grew in love with a person. Clearly, you didn't see any difference.
Well,
so
there's women who can't have babies now. Does that mean you're going to leave them?
Oh, Angela the Dumb. Did Angela the Dumb compare a man that's had this done to them? He did it real quick because he flips it inside out, and next he's going to shove it up inside of him. Because remember, this is a penile inversion therapy, meaning they're going to invert the penis. He did that really quick. So I just want to make sure you guys did not miss him flipping his penis over.
On the gland side of the incision for later construction of the labia minora and formation of the clitoral hood. The penile tissues are de-epithelialized, leaving a penile tube, which will later be used to create a portion of the neovagina.
Did Angela the Dumb compare that to a sterile woman, a woman who naturally cannot have children? This is why I said Angela the Dumb should not be allowed to speak any longer.
Like if you was married to a woman and she told you she didn't have any children, and then come to find out she got 5 kids stashed off somewhere, you would feel deceived. You would want to marry somebody that will be honest up front with you. You wouldn't want to marry somebody that's going to lie to you and keep a huge part of their life away.
Sounds great, but a lot of people are married to people they were deceived by in many ways. So I don't think you can ever prevent people from not deceiving people in marriage.
It's okay.
Oh, Angela the Dumb. Angela the Dumb can't even put her cape on properly. If you're going to cape, oh, Angela the Simple, can you at least cape without the cape flapping in your face? Because her caping, like, oh, so what if they're a liar? A lot of people are liars. It's like, really, that's the argument, Angela, the simple-minded one? Other people lie. Why can't they lie?
I guess that's your excuse because other people are married
what
to somebody
I'm saying
that deceived
is
them.
that if your child identifies in a certain way and what you want is for your child to be happy and not feel oppressed,
Do you have
and that's what they
children?
need, then
Do you
no, I
have
don't.
children?
Nope.
Okay. I have 5 children. And as a mother who has raised children, it is not healthy to mislead your children or to lie to your children and make them believe in something that is not scientifically true. It does not benefit.
I support
because what
Gabrielle Union and
happens
Dwayne
is-
Wade and how they're allowing their child
don't.
Zaya to grow.
I
I know
don't.
you don't. And they have children,
don't.
and that's what I support.
Well, Gabrielle Union and Dwayne Wade are weirdos, so there's that.
Well, that's fine. I don't support it. I'm with Boosie on this one.
I'm not with Boosie, though. Boosie is the one who basically had a woman rape his sons. I'm not with Gabrielle, the dude that she's married to, Dwayne Wade. I'm not with Boosie, you know, the person who pays people to rape children. I'm not with any of those fools. All these people are nasty, okay? All of those people are a bit nasty.
I don't agree. I don't agree. I don't agree that we should encourage. And first of all, how does it benefit Black America? Y'all talking about restoring, right? Black America, restoring our lives, restoring our economy, restoring our families. How does it even benefit Black America to encourage our men to become women? Because first of all, if anybody understands the strategies of war, if it's trying to take out a colony of people, the first thing they do is remove the men. So as a woman, first of all, I need my man. I need my Black man. You know, I need you to be a man. I need you to lead. I don't need you to be competition. I don't need you to feel like you a woman or feel like you are me because I don't have to give my crown away. So no, I don't support feminizing, especially not our boys. But if you're an old man and you want to make a decision that that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. But I don't have to support it. And I don't. And tell me, how does it benefit us?
I just support happiness and choices. And I know sometimes
Yeah,
people have a lot of mental health issues and a lot of trauma associated with people with feeling like they should be ashamed of who they are because of what society tells them that they should be.
Well, you are.
And so I know a lot of
you
times
are, if you're not
people-
being yourself, Angela, you're not making sense. If Angela, you're not making sense. If Angela, you're not making sense. If
Wait, can we take a pause for the cause? Because I know that Angela the Wise, because I've been fed up with Angela the Simple for the past hour, y'all. Angela the Simple has been working on my last nerve. But I knew that Angela the Wise was going to break down. She said, you're not making sense. No, Angela the Wise. Angela the Simple is not making sense. Simple people don't make sense. That's not their job. Their job is to be simple. They think in baby terms, you know, they're trying to crawl during a race, mentally speaking. I don't think you have to support either. So let me keep it real. Let me not be hypocritical here. I don't think you should support it. I think you can love people, but I think in no way, shape, or form should you support that lifestyle, right? If you disapprove, that disapproval should extend to non-support. Now, this is where Angela the Wise and I disagree, but she also is trying to be a politician. And apparently it's not popular in politics just to call the gays out for what they are. Now, since I don't care, okay, I just give 2 shits. Me, Irene Yvette. I'm comfortable with saying, nah, I'm not about to support you. I don't care to support you. I won't support you. Don't ask.
If you're not willing to be yourself,
And if who you are
ashamed of who
and
you
being
are.
yourself is, I am a woman, and that's the
You ain't a
gender
woman.
that I am, and that's me being myself, and that's
You
that.
no. Okay. All right. But anyway,
I don't think it's yeah, let's move on, but I don't think there's anything wrong with supporting people the same way that you support your son who happens to be gay.
yeah,
That's
you
my
can you can support them, but you don't have to condone it. You don't have to agree with it.
Nah, no support. That's a no for me.
I can support your decision to believe that you're a woman, but that don't mean that I have to encourage it or I have to condone it or I have to tell other young boys to go be a princess. Or I got to
Can you
support
elaborate
Billy
on your
Porter
thoughts?
being on.
You know, we have to go in a second. This is the last
Hold on.
question, 'cause we
What'd
have
you
to
say
get up
about
on there.
what'd you say about Billy Porter?
I said, or I don't have to support Billy Porter going on Sesame Street teaching children about LGBTQ, because you can't teach children about being a lesbian or being bisexual or being gay without teaching them about sex. And in heterosexual households, nobody is teaching their children about sex at that young of an age. So I don't have to
you could be
support
gay
that.
and be celibate.
What's
That
gay?
doesn't mean you're having sex.
What's gay though?
You know what I mean?
But
You
what's
could be
the
a
definition
lesbian
of
and not
gay?
be having sex at
What's
all.
the
Why is Angela the Simple talking again? Angela the Simple, this conversation is too advanced for your tiny mind. There are celibate gay people. By its nature, being homosexual, being gay means to be sexually attracted to people of the same gender, the same sex. Sexual attraction. Homosexuality is dependent on sexual attraction. So if you teach sexual attraction, you're teaching about sex. Wanting to bump penises or penis in the butthole or all that stuff. Those are sexual acts. If you have the desire to shove your tongue down another man's throat, that's gay. That's hard. It's a hard concept to teach, void of the thing that makes it what it is. That's what homosexuality is. Sexual attraction to people of the same sex. This is why Angela the Simple should not be allowed to talk. She throws the conversation off with her random ass unintelligent comments. This is just blurt out anything, Angela the Simple. Keep interrupting Angela the Wise. Learn how to shut up and listen, Angela the Simple, because you use words, simple words, fetus, homosexual, gay, and she doesn't actually know what the words mean. And if Angela the Wise has to ask her one more time, what does that mean? Angela the Simple, sweetheart, what does it mean to be gay? If gay means sexually being attracted to a person of the same sex, same gender, then that's a hard concept to share with somebody that's a little kid without talking about the sex part. It's almost impossible. The sex part is what defines the word. Angela the Simple.
Definition of gay. What's the definition of
You
a
be gay
lesbian?
and
So
celibate?
let me give you an example.
Yes.
Let me give you an example. So there was a woman that sent me a picture of her child's first grade English book. And inside of that English book, it was a picture of Ellen DeGeneres. And it said up under Ellen DeGeneres, Ellen DeGeneres is a humanitarian and a lesbian. The 5-year-old baby went home and asked her mom, what's a lesbian? So now that mother has to sit down and explain to her child what a lesbian is at the age of 5 years old.
Why is Ellen DeGeneres in a textbook? Isn't she a talk show host? She's relevant in a textbook. Why exactly? Isn't she a comedian? Okay.
I hate to tell you, but when you open Pandora's box, it cannot be closed. I don't have to explain heterosexuality to my children at the young age of 5 years old. So I shouldn't have to explain two men being together. I shouldn't have to explain two women being together. It's our sexual preference, and we need to
But you
keep
shouldn't
sex
have, so you're
away
saying you
from
shouldn't have to
children.
explain any of that. You shouldn't have to explain sex
Why
in
are we
general,
talking
not
about
man, woman.
sex? Why are we talking about, no, that's sexual preference. When you go to talking about lesbian and gay, why are we having that conversation with 5-year-olds or 3-year-olds or 4-year-olds? Because see, me, I was sexually abused at the age of 5. And if it was my choice, I'd have just been happy playing with toys and thinking about Happy Meals. Like, that's too much for their mind. If they're not there yet, we don't even need to introduce them. You wouldn't want nobody talking to your kid about sex at 5 years old.
To keep it real, like honestly, like all jokes aside, part of sexual grooming by pedophiles is the introduction of sexual concepts to children. So when an adult wants to sexually abuse a child, and all parents should know this, they expose them to sexual themes. That could be videos, that could be anything from mild nudity to full-on nudity, conversations about sexual acts. They do this to groom them and acclimate their minds. So the gay community, which I have a video on this, who has an increased elevated risk of molesting children. These are facts. Maybe I'll drop a card. the gay community has a vested interest in the grooming of sexual ideology in children. And I'm sure every pedophile from here to kingdom come hopes that we will make grooming children for sex, sexualizing children and introducing sexual concepts to children part of regular curriculum, because then they don't have to do the job. We've already done it for them, y'all. We could just groom our own kids for the predators. Let's just do that. Sounds wise.
So he was on there talking about
explaining sexual preference.
He was on there talking about having sex. I'm confused.
Well, LGBTQ, if you're explaining it, how do you explain it without talking about sex? It's all about sex. Lesbian means two women that prefer to have sex with each other. Gay means two men that prefer to have sex with each other. A bisexual person is a person that has sex with both sex. I mean, come on, y'all, let's just be real for a minute.
Oh, Angela the Wise, they can't be real. You recognize being fake is what they get paid to do.
What if it's just attraction though? Because I mean, we're all attracted to, the opposite sex when we're young, or attracted to somebody when we're young. So what if you're a young boy?
We're not. I shouldn't have any type of. Then something wrong, because at 5 years old, why should you be having any type of sexual attraction? Let's be real. Now we're getting into pedophilia. Now we're getting into pedophilia because we're talking about 5-year-old children.
All right, let's move
on. A 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old, they engage in what could be called sexual exploration, like touching themselves and things like that, but they don't conceptualize sex in the way that a man looking at me might conceptualize sex. So we don't want to play these games. Now we're bordering into some pedophilia stuff, because pedophiles, that's their talk. That's a pedophilic talking point. Charlemagne the Gay. Kids can feel attracted. Kids can have desire. Even babies, this is a pedophile for you. Even babies, can choose what gives them pleasure. Some pedophilia talking point, Charlemagne the Gay. Now back on up. We're already questioning things about you. You understand a little bit too well. You have too much of a thought process around what kind of sexuality a child can have. Children have no sexuality. They're children. Children have no sexuality. They're children. Anything that they do that even remotely resembles something that if I did it, it was sexual, is not the same. They're children. They don't understand it in the same way. They're not doing it for the same reasons. And only somebody whose mind is twisted and warped would think otherwise. Anybody who's a parent, we know it. Anybody who is a parent, we know it. We know darn well that our children do not view bodies or sex in the way that an adult does.
This is
get away from that.
I'm gonna tell you, I know.
Not going
now, when
anywhere.
I got molested when I was 8, and so I do understand what you're saying, because I wasn't thinking about sex and sexual acts before that happened. So I do kind of understand what you're saying, just a little bit.
This explains a lot. Most gay people were molested at a young age. And this is probably why he's able to tap in to these unhealthy thoughts, because that has not been dealt with.
That's all I'm saying. And please stop trying to, create this atmosphere that I'm against LGBTQ, because that's not it. LGBTQ is about sexual choice and sexual preference, which adults have every right to, but I'm just strongly against tying anything that involves sexual choice, sexual preference, sexual anything with children that aren't mature enough to make decisions regarding the consequences that come behind sex. That's where I'm at.
Well, Angela Stanton King, we appreciate you for checking in.
Yeah, Charlene, we gotta come.
Angela, even though I disagree with like 95% of what you say, I enjoy
what you disagree with. What you disagree with? We need to have a conversation on record. Because y'all gonna have to use y'all platform to stop letting these people encourage us that abortion is healthcare and telling us to go kill our offspring. Y'all gonna have to use y'all platform to stop letting these people encourage us that abortion is healthcare and telling us to go kill our offspring. Y'all gonna have to use y'all platform to stop letting these people encourage us that abortion is healthcare and telling us to go kill our offspring. Y'all.
Oh, I am sorry, but Angela the Wise is everything for that. She said, we need to have a conversation off the record because y'all need to stop using this platform to push this agenda, these counterproductive agendas. But I like that she called them out for their shenanigans because they needed to be called out.
It's all I want to end with. We can never become the majority as long as we abort our children. If we're tired of being the oppressed minority, we need to rethink abortion. And when it comes to valuing Black life, that's just where I'm at.
She is the realest I have seen on The Breakfast Club, and I don't even know how long. Angela the Wise is real. Okay, I'm calling her Angela the Wise, but you guys, her name is Angela Stanton. Okay, so Angela the Wise is Angela Stanton. Vote for her every time you see her face until she changes it up.